Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. Hope you're doing well today. It is April the 9th, 2020. And I remember 4 months and 9 days ago when I was looking at my little crystal ball about the year 2020, I even said in one of my videos that I thought this was going to be a year of great change. Banner change is, I think, even the word that I used. And then I went on to make an even bolder statement that it was going to kick off the decade of all decades. And that when we look back at this decade, 100, 200, 1,000 years from now, and look at this time, this decade of 2020s will stand out as being a tremendous year, a tremendous 10 years, and that we will start the decade living one way, and by the time the decade's over, we'll be living a totally different way of life, and more truer to Maitreya's priorities, which, of course, are sharing the world's resources to create justice, to create true and lasting peace. Also, looking at this 10 years, this is going to be the 10 years where we save our planet, SOP. So that's my bold statement. But with any change, and any great change, you need great crisis to start it, and tension. And I think that's where we're at right now. And when I looked at this year, did I think for 1 second that all the major sporting events would be shut down? No. I'll be honest about that. No, I didn't see that one coming. Did I see that I wouldn't be able to just drive to my favorite restaurant and sit down and be served in that restaurant? And that all restaurants would be closed for inside, seating and so forth? Well, didn't see that one coming either, just as I didn't see this virus bitch slapping the planet the way that it has, so where we're going to be 6 months from now, 12 months from now, wow, who knows at this point, right? We're creating a whole new slate at this point, but we're going to get through this, and we're going to get through it together, and it's going to be humanity's choice to make. Now, the good news is that we do have help. Our elder brothers, the Masters of Wisdom and Maitreya, are here to help us make the right decisions, but also help us build a future that will be sustainable for all generations. And the way that we were living in, just 4 months and 9 days ago is probably not the best way to be living, because it was all about ourselves and living selfishly and living separate lives and so forth, where I think that where we're headed is we're going to start to work together, is the way I see it. But I think it's going to take this crisis and this tension for us to wake up. And I think we are waking up to the fact. But also, on the flip side of it, a little positive note, so I don't come across sounding like too much of a negative Nelly. I would have never predicted that just by April, the air would be so much cleaner. The cleanest I've ever breathed in my entire lifetime. Would I have thought for 1 second that dolphins would have been filmed, and seen swimming in the Venice canals? Would I have thought for a second that the fish population around the oceans would be coming back to greater and greater strength, because people wouldn't be decimating them the way that they are, because that was basically going into restaurants, the way that we were eating and so forth. So, and now we aren't eating in restaurants as much as we used to. So it's giving it, the whole environment's getting a nice breather, to kind of catch its breath, like, okay, maybe we can get through this, But anyway, I put forth an invitation over the past few videos that if you have a question about Maitreya, the Masters of Wisdom, please feel free to post your question as a comment, or ask me directly at searchforsigns@mail.com. And since I've done that, more and more people have asked me questions, and it's been fun to try to answer them. Hopefully I've done a fairly decent job of answering them. The latest question comes from someone who comments quite a bit on my channel. Her name is Ms. Ruby. And she asked, is there a connection between Maitreya and the Noahide laws? Now, if you're not familiar with what the Noahide laws are, they read very similarly to the Ten Commandments that Moses gave back in the Old Testament. Now, is there a connection? I'll try to answer that as best I can. First, I will say my opinion about the Ten Commandments and the Noahide laws is, I know you weren't asking me my opinion, Ms. Ruby, but about those, I think that the Ten Commandments and the Noahide laws were given to people who did not know right from wrong at the time that they were given to them. And they needed to know right from wrong because they were breaking those rules out of ignorance. And I think they were probably given as suggestions of ways of living, which eventually became law, which became dogma. And the dogma is what created the hypocrisy around the law. So, for instance, back 2,000 years ago during Jesus' time, if a woman was found committing adultery, what did they do? They stoned her to death. So they said that they judged her for breaking one of the Ten Commandments, and then they turned around and it was okay for them to break one of the Ten Commandments and stone her to death. You see what I'm saying? So Jesus, what did Jesus teach, and how did Jesus teach? He didn't, he said, the one, whoever is free of sin, may he or she cast the first stone, right? Well, he was saying that you shouldn't be doing that. You know what I'm saying? The other thing was, he said God made the Sabbath for man, not man for the Sabbath, right? Well, it could be translated into God made the Ten Commandments for man, not man for the Ten Commandments. But Jesus, just like Maitreya, will be teaching us how to live within the law of cause and effect more than following a set of dogma and rules. Because I guess the question that I ask is, as a general rule, knowing the Ten Commandments and knowing the Noahide laws and memorizing them, does that really keep someone from breaking them? Probably not, But when we start to realize moment to moment that there isn't a God that's judging us, that if we break those Ten Commandments that, we'll be punished and go to hell for all eternity and so forth, but more so that there's a universal law, what we put out, we get back. So if I put out harm, it comes back to me. If we start to see that direct relationship, well, out of sheer exhaustion, we will start to live our lives more harmlessly. And the times come for humanity to be taught that law on a universal scale, and a global scale. And Maitreya being on TV now and into the future, we'll be talking more and more about that universal law and how it relates to humanity, how it affects humanity, how it affects each one of our lives, how it affects our nations and so forth. And even nations will start to live and act more harmlessly toward one another, because we'll see that if they attack, like the United States goes and attacks another country, it'll come back on the nation itself and so forth. And the other thing too about the Ten Commandments or the Noahide laws is, I think that personally, I think you could live your life following the Ten Commandments or following the 7 Noahide laws and still be creating negative karma for yourself, because the masters and Maitreya are going to teach us that it's not only what you do, it's also what you say and what you think that create karma, for good or for ill. So if you think something, let's say you think murder, or you think about killing that annoying husband that just annoys the crap out of you, right? But you don't actually pull the trigger or stab him to death. Well, you are still creating negative karma for yourself. Just as if you say something to harm somebody at work, and you did it because you really wanted to get under their skin, you really wanted to hurt them and cut them deep, right? For whatever reason. Well, that's going to come back on you. But you might not have lied. You might not have committed adultery, you might not have murdered, you might not have shout not at all 10 of those things, right? But yet, by you thinking or saying something out of harm, to harm somebody else, well, it's going to come back on you. Do you see what I'm saying? So, Maitreya is going to live, Maitreya is going to teach us to live more true to what Jesus taught, which is live within that law of cause and effect. And so I hope this helps. I hope it gives a greater understanding of what Maitreya is going to be teaching us, because these masters, they're going to teach us the truth of the law of cause and effect, but they're also going to be examples of how to live within that law, how to live harmlessly. They all live moment to moment harmless and within the law of cause and effect. They don't create, none of these masters, including Maitreya, create any negative karma for themselves. So we'll be able to see it on TV. We'll be able to see these masters out in the public eye living moment to moment as the way that we should all be living. So they're not going to be, Maitreya is not coming to create a whole new set of dogma. I think there's enough dogma out there. But he's going to be showing us how to live harmlessly. How does a nation interact with a nation that doesn't necessarily see eye to eye on, but yet live harmlessly and get along with them and so forth. But I hope this helps. And until next time, keep your hands away from your face, wash your hands, take care of yourself, and think about others and help others out. And we're going to get through this together. Take care. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.